G'day everyone. You can probably hear me anyway because I'm a pretty loud fella, but I'm Jack. I work at Flow Power. Flow Power is a pretty innovative energy retailer. So we have a big focus on probably two things. A lot of things, but I'd say the two primary things are one, the renewable energy transition, so trying to empower that in any way that we can, and two, working really closely with our clients so that they can seize opportunity in a changing and very dynamic market. So I had the fortune to work across a whole range of different roles here at Flow, and it's been really interesting and eye-opening for me. And I'm sure if anyone's worked in the energy industry before, they would share that sentiment. It's a really dynamic place and it's a really interesting place to work. But 8 minutes is really not a lot of time to run through such a complex and dynamic place. So I'm going to do my very best to give like a good, thorough overview of this, but please, there's a bunch of Flow Power staff and colleagues of mine up the back here, and if some of this I've just brushed over too high level, come and talk to us because we'd love to talk to you, and we could talk to you forever about this kind of stuff. So the first thing I'm going to talk to you a bit about is how much the energy market has changed over just the last decade, just a short period. You guys may or may not be aware that the wholesale market is very dynamic in that it has a different price, and that price settles every 5 minutes. Now, this is plotted at 30-minute intervals, but what you can see is three different lines here. So the first in this brown is 2017, then you've got in orange 2020, and then in this kind of tealy blue, you've got 2023. And you can see how distinct these kind of average curves are. This is just in Victoria. Between those three different time periods. But what becomes quite apparent if you look at this is that it used to be that electricity was quite expensive in the middle of the day. That was when there was a lot of demand, and we live in a demand supply market. And so when there's a lot of demand in the market from all these industrial manufacturers and all this kind of different commercial activity, you get an elevated price as well. But now we've seen such a high penetration of solar PV and renewables in the grid that over time, the price in the middle of the day has bottomed out significantly. So instead of you seeing this kind of flat price that occurs throughout the middle of the middle of the day is now the cheapest time to use electricity in any of the different regions in the net. You'll also note that in 2023, in Victoria, we've achieved an average negative price in the middle of the day there. Now that's like quite astounding in that in 2017, the negative prices were so rare that in Germany, they were experiencing negative prices for the first time. There was people in America writing about the novelty of that scenario. It now occurs in South Australia and Victoria in particular, more than 20% of the time. So 1/5 of the time, energy prices are negative. If you didn't know that, you should definitely come and speak to us. What is also of note is that you have these large kind of spikes that occur in the evening across, all 3 years, but predominantly 2020 and 2023. And that is an artifact of volatility that occurs in the early evening. So that's when we see high prices, when a lot of generation falls off, and thermal generators now have control in the market, and so they charge quite a high price to make back or recoup their losses throughout the day. And you also see that volatility typically occurs in the evening and afternoon period as a result of unscheduled outages from different thermal generators. So just last week, for instance, we had quite a bit of volatility occur in New South Wales, and that's because we had the scheduled outage of 2 thermal generators, and another 2 have a non-scheduled outage, which meant there was a shortfall in supply and demand, which led to some volatility, which is why we see these curves in the evening now. It's really important to note that this spread of prices between, say, the lowest cost in the middle of the day and the most expensive cost in the evening is a trend that we're not going to see disappear. It is fundamentally cheaper to produce energy now in the middle of the day than any other time of day because of solar generation, and that will continue to be the case. So if you have the opportunity to shift some of your load to the middle of the day, there's certainly a large economic benefit in doing so. And that's the kind of information and some of the things that we're trying to do at Flow Power is try to help people understand these trends and these different market trends and try to adjust or adapt their operations such that they can capitalize on cheaper electricity. And the interesting thing about these price trends is that the correlation is the cheapest energy is now also the cleanest energy. So by a function of reducing your costs, you're also reducing your carbon impact. Now, we were just talking about volatility, and I wanted to draw attention to a project that we implemented recently for one of our industrial partners, a group down in South Australia called Michelle Wool. Now, what you can see in this chart here is that on this particular day, we saw this really elevated price volatility. So you've got your prices on the right-hand axis that occurred between around 4:30 and 8:30 at night. Now, what we had done with Michelle Wool is we'd been given some funding from the South Australian government to implement a whole range of different automation projects across a whole range of our different customers in the region. In this case, what we did was we engaged with Michelle Wool, we understood their manufacturing process, we understood the time it took to shut down different sections of their plant and the sequences in which we needed to do that. We worked with their on-site technicians and particularly their SCADA technicians to upgrade their existing control system and to feed it signals from our price forecasts such that they could shut down and respond to market events like this to reduce their exposure to volatility. Now, this is not a cheap project. If you guys have ever worked on SCADA projects before, and I can see Azo's here, so they can tell you as well. It's a technical project and can be a lot of work involved, but even so, we were able to achieve an ROI, and this is a real ROI that we've observed since the implementation of this project of 1.3 years. It also reduced their energy costs by as much as 10% over that period. So this is a really significant project for them and something that we've seen really great success for, not just for them, but for others and other clients of ours as well. Now, some of you might think if you're from a manufacturing background that you can't just shut down your processes, and to shut down your processes would mean an impact to your operations that's just unacceptable, and you're not flexible in that way. Well, extremely fortunate that we're coming into a whole new era in this renewable energy transition. And that era is going to involve a lot of battery energy storage systems, we call BESS. And that's because of this cost curve decrease that we can see here. So we just spoke a moment ago about the difference in price, the increasing difference in price between the cheapest and most expensive periods of the day. A battery capitalizes on that by performing something we call wholesale arbitrage, which is to say that it charges during that very cheap period and discharges during the very expensive period. That's how it earns revenue. So that spread is now better than it's ever been. So per cycle, it can make more revenue than it ever has before. And the cost of implementing these batteries has come down incredibly over the last decade or so. What you see is you can see like a pretty sharp decline on the left-hand side here in the kind of mid-teens, and then this stagnating period where we didn't see a lot of cost reduction. Now, we thought that was the flaw of this kind of cell cost and the technology of implementing this, but a lot of capacity, manufacturing capacity has been brought on to produce these cells now, and in just the last 12 months, we've seen a 50% decrease in the cost of these cells, and these cells make up 70% or more of your total cost of implementation for these projects. So we're about to see all these prices flow into the market at a period where we've never seen better intraday spreads, and in a period where people want to be sheltered from volatility in the market as well. So if you guys are interested in this and understanding whether or not there's value in looking at these kind of projects for your own sites, really highly encourage you to speak to someone specialist in the area who can assist you with that. Flow Power is excellent at that, but if you have consultants, this is something you should be raising with them. This is something you should be looking at because it's truly going to be a part of the evolving energy landscape, and these assets are going to be the thing that helps you realize real gains and really improve your total cost of operation as well. Now, the last thing I'm going to say is that this is just a little snippet of what the energy market is and some of the functions of that, but it's a really dynamic place. It's quite complex. and it's changing at a pace that we've never seen before. Now that's really exciting for someone like me who's a self-professed energy nerd, but it can be a little frightening or challenging for people to keep up with that if that's not their preferred expertise. What I would say is that you definitely need to find yourself a partner in the energy industry who understands these emerging market trends, because there are two things that fall out of a changing energy market, and that is opportunity and risk. And the people who have an understanding of the market see opportunity and can capitalize on that, and the people who disengage from it expose themselves to risk. Now, we'd love to help anyone who wants to have a chat understand the energy market a bit more, and some of these different trends that we're seeing. But thank you very much for giving me your attention, even for a brief time.